أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله حمد الشاكرين اللهم لك الحمد حتى ترضى ولك الحمد إذا رضيت ولك الحمد بعد الرضا ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بك اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وأنعم وأكرم على عبدك ورسولك نبينا محمد بن عبد الله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. We begin by praising Allah Jalla Jalaluh and thanking Him. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala infinitely and abundantly. نحمده سبحانه على كل نعمة أنعمها علينا رب العالمين. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of the blessings that we have, and we ask Allah Jalla Jalaluh to send His peace and blessings upon our beloved and His beloved Rasulullah salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran through the lens of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam of the virtue of Hajj and the reality of the great action of Hajj, and that those who go to Hajj are in fact the guests of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while much of what we talk about may involve logistics and details that are very dunyawi oriented, make no mistake, my brother and sister, if you are in Hajj, you are there because Allah Jalla Jalaluh honored you to be in the acts of Hajj. And that is inshaAllah ta'ala one of the greatest indications of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love for you. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen you and selected you and honored you with being a person who is willed to go to Hajj. We may think that we are going to Hajj bisuhula, yani with ease, because of the color of our passport, or because of the money that we have in our bank account, or because of these other matters. And no doubt these are factors in the equation. But the reality is many people have the money, but they don't go to Hajj. And many people have the passport, but they don't go to Hajj. And many people have the means and everything set up for them to go to Hajj, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not will for them or choose for them to be amongst those who are Hujjaj Baytillah al-Haram. And this is to tell you that this is truly an honor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I know that it is an honor that comes with oftentimes a lot of anxiety, particularly for individuals that have never done Hajj before. Is it fair to assume that everyone here is doing Hajj by show of hands? Those going to Hajj? MashaAllah, that's good. Otherwise, we're just hanging out, right? And how many of you are doing Hajj for the first time? Allahu Akbar. I'm not intimidated at all. And the idea of a first Hajj is that reality, you are fulfilling one of the greatest missions of your life. In the very famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ of Bunya al-Islamu ala khams, in which he says, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, that a fundamental pillar of this deen is the performance of Hajj. Many elements of our life are fundamental parts of our deen. Our salah, our zakah, all of these things are our siyam of Ramadan. But the fasting of Ramadan visits us annually. Zakah visits us annually, right? The prayers visit us daily. But the act of Hajj is so unique that it actually only comes to us in the manner of the obligation and from the perspective of it being something that Allah expects of you. It only happens once like that in your entire life, and no pressure at all. But what that means is that we need to do it with a level of ihsan and a level of, insha'Allah ta'ala, excellence in everything that we do, with a hope that Allah Jalla Jalaluh gives us acceptance for it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the opportunity to have the reward of an accepted Hajj. And we know, and I'm trying to be brief with my words, because subhanAllah, the Hajj Workshop could be a 10-part series that we do across 10 weeks, 1 hour a week, and even then, we will just touch the surface of Hajj. But for the sake of time, inshallah ta'ala, of course, you by now should have invested your time in listening to many muhadarat and durus and lectures about the virtue of Hajj. And the proof is in the pudding. You are here because you clearly knew that Hajj was serious enough that you dedicate your time, your energy, your wealth, and all of these things to perform Hajj. And so, inshallah ta'ala, we realize that the greatest reward of a Hajj is what? What is the greatest reward of Hajj? Jannah. The reward of Hajj is Jannah. That there are people that will leave for 10 days or 14 days or 21 days, if you're one of those people, mashallah alaikum, that however long your trip is, that by the end of that trip, you could be a person that la jaza'a lahu illa al-jannah. That the only reward that Allah has in store for you, for this act that you did, irrespective of everything that happened in before, irrespective of every shortcoming and mistake that you had, that the only reward that Allah gives for you is in fact the greatest reward, the reward of Jannah. نسأله سبحانه وتعالى أن يجعلنا وإياكم من أهل الفردوس الأعلى من الجنة. And another narration of the Prophet ﷺ is that a person comes back from Hajj كَيَوْمِ وَلَدَتْهُ أُمَّةٌ. That a person comes back from Hajj like the day that their mother gave birth to them. And this is an incredible feat, that you go to Hajj with dhunub and ma'asi, sins and shortcomings, لا يعلمها إلا الله. Remember, a lot of times we think of sins and we think of the sins that we know of. But the reality is that we have countless sins that we don't recall. Countless sins that we didn't even register them to be sins. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of them. And the other thing is that a lot of times we make trivial sins that Allah sees to be very, very astronomical in the scales of deeds. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that a person who goes to Hajj can come back like the day that their mother gave birth to them. And it's the closest thing to a Muslim taking Shahada again. You know, when you see someone standing in front of the masjid, taking the Shahada, it's like an incredible, you can almost feel them losing their sins. You can almost sense what it's like for them. They walk into the masjid and they walk out like the day that their mother gave birth to them. It's a spiritual rebirth in a sense. For those of us that are born Muslim, or those of us that converted years ago and entered faith years ago, Hajj is a spiritual rebirth for us. And I don't know about you all, but for many of us, we are in need of that reset button. And so many people come and they say, I wish that I can reset. Hajj is in fact that resetting of our life. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq to do Hajj in a manner that is pleasing to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can begin the discussion of recognizing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Hajj an obligation. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ عَنِ الْعَالَمِينَ. That Allah in this ayah indicates to us that Hajj is in fact an expectation that Allah has in us. Now, whether it is يجب على الفور أو يجب على التراخي, that whether it is an obligation that you need to fulfill as quickly as possible, or an obligation that you can do so long as you have the ability to do it, this is a matter of disagreement amongst the scholars. But the vast majority of scholars, they indicate that an individual that has the means, has the health, has the resources to do it, and has the ability to pause their normal life to go to Hajj, that it is encouraged, at the very least encouraged, that they do so as soon as possible. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he told us that this is in fact in the equivalent of al-jihadu fi sabilillah, that this is a type of jihad, particularly for our sisters, but also for our brothers, that Hajj is like going and striving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why am I beginning with these muqaddimat when there's so much to talk about? Because, my dear brothers and sisters, Shaitan does not just attack us when we're engaging in sin. Shaitan, in fact, is most concerned about impacting us when we are about to engage in what? Engage in ta'ah. Inna ash-shaytana lakum adu, fattakhidhuhu aduwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, Shaitan is for you an enemy, so take him as an enemy. Treat him like an enemy. Shaitan sees that you spent thousands of dollars and many hours and you're changing all of your life to go for Hajj, and you're preparing your will, your wasiyah, and all of these things. And if your salah was shaky, now you're fixing your salah. If you had tension and hiqd and hasad between you and your family, you're going to them, you're apologizing. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. Shaitan sees that you're doing all of these things and you're on your way to ta'ah and on your way to Jannah. So Shaitan is going to come and try to infiltrate. And he's going to try to seep in and impact your intention for Hajj. And if the reward of Hajj is Jannah, كما قال نبينا محمد بن عبد الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه, and if the reward of it is that you come back كيوم ولدته أمه, like the day that your mother gave birth to you, then nothing should jeopardize that intention. Nothing should jeopardize that intention. And that's why one of the things that we are told, جددوا نياتكم, to renew our intentions again and again and again, to continuously renew your intention of why are you going on this journey? Why are you leaving your children, maybe your spouse, maybe your parents, maybe your loved ones, that you make sure again and again. It's not about what's happening here. It's about here, that I am going on this trip for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's actually exactly what the talbiyah means. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik means, Ya Allah, you called me and I'm responding to your call. Not so people can call me Hajj and Hajjah when we come back. Not so people can think that I went to Hajj. Not so that I can buy 2 suitcases of gifts that people are going to throw away within a week. Not for these reasons am I going to Hajj. I am going to Hajj liwajhillah. I am going to Hajj fi sabilillah, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so to make sure that you're monitoring your intention and you're continuously renewing your intention, insha'Allah ta'ala. Now, just as kind of like a general survey, if you will, how many of you are going to Medina first by show of hands? MashaAllah, everyone. What? Anybody going to Mecca first? Mecca first? Allahu Akbar, Jameel. And so generally, people that go to Hajj from America, they typically perform Hajj Tamattu. And Hajj Tamattu is the Hajj that has a Umrah, but that Umrah is affiliated with that Hajj, but it is not embedded within that Hajj. Meaning that there's a Umrah, and then you exit Ihram, and you enjoy yourself, and then you go back into Ihram for Hajj. This is called Tamattu. The vast majority of Hujjaj from the United States of America typically do Tamattu. Then there's Qiran. Qiran is a Hajj in which the Umrah and the Hajj are built into one another. Like they flow into one another. And then there's Ifrad, and Ifrad is a Hajj on its own, right? Bimufradihi, like just on its own. Ala kulli hal, for the majority of us, for the majority of you rather, that are going to Hajj, you will be doing Hajj Tamattu, right? The Hajj in which you do a Umrah, and then you will break from that Umrah, and then you will begin your Hajj, insha'Allah ta'ala. And so one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to try to combine between fiqh and practicality. So we're going to go ala barakatillah inshallah now, and we're going to start from before your trip, and we're going to go on the journey together, and I'm going to include the fiqh of it, the legality of it, the practicality of it, like the logistics of it, and some spirituality, like the ruhaniyat of it, inshallah ta'ala. طيب, how does this sound? Does this sound good? طيب, inshallah. You're sitting at home and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go on Hajj, inshallah ta'ala. The most important thing is to not become so anxious that you do nothing to prepare when you actually have to do a lot to prepare. And so the reality is, the more that you prepare, the better it is going to be for you on the journey of Hajj. Now, does that mean that a person should panic if they are not fully ready for Hajj? No. Much of what you will need, much of what you will require, you will be able to attain while you are there. But the more that you prepare spiritually, physically, emotionally, these are things that the more that you prepare, inshaAllah ta'ala, the easier that the Hajj will be for you. So what does it look like for you to prepare from now? I'll tell you that one of the best pieces of advice that we got from a physical sense is to go for a walk or a run every day. Just to go for a walk every day. Just to walk for, whether it is a half an hour, 1 hour, just to go for a walk or to go for a run every single day. In fact, some of the mashayikh, they said, practice sleeping in uncomfortable situations. Like practice sleeping on the floor, get a sleeping bag, sleep on the couch without being in trouble. Like these things are good for a person to try so that they can anticipate what's going to happen in Hajj. Because even though you might feel, we gave all this time, we paid all this money, I'm going to be living like a king, even in the best packages, Hajj is Hajj, right? Even with the best packages, you're still going to be dealing with some of the challenges or the difficulties that Hajj may bring, and there's barakah in that. Difficulty is not a negative thing. This is a part of being a abd of Allah, is that we make sacrifices to be there. So begin to prepare yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And we'll talk about what that means. But emotionally, to prepare yourself means to get used to from now registering when you're tired, registering when you're frustrated, and not lashing out the way that we may typically do. Because Hajj is going to test your patience in a way that nothing else in your life has tested patience before. And even though you want everything to make sense, very, very often things will not make sense. Like they'll tell you be at the bus stop or the train stop at a time. And you will be there not just at the time, but before the time. Then you'll show up and they'll tell you that the train that only works 3 days a year is not working. And you're like, what is that? That doesn't make sense at all. So you might begin, you have your spouse with you have your wife with you have your husband with you. Your husband forgot his water bottle. Now he's drinking your water. But why didn't you remember to bring your water bottle? Right? Your wife is next to you. She's tired. She wants your chair. But why didn't you bring your chair? Right? All of these little things, these become a test of your patience. Even if you're going to Hajj by yourself, it's even worse, in fact, because you have these complete strangers that you have to لازم تتحملهم وهم يتحملوك. Like they need to be patient with you, and you need to be patient with them. So to begin from now, to learn to monitor your emotions from now. Maybe you're very quick at jabbing your spouse, or verbally jabbing your spouse. Inshallah, nothing more than that. Maybe you're typically quick at getting irritated with your children. From now, get better at monitoring that. And a lot of times when we become irritable or frustrated, it's because we might be either tired or hungry or something along those lines. So to register that and to fulfill whatever, or you need the restroom, akramakumullah. So to make sure that you're observing these things earlier so that you don't lash out or take it out on the people around you. This is something we begin now. You're not going to go to Madinatul Munawwara and all of a sudden there's a nasheed in the background and you're living your best life and you become like the Sahaba. Like who you are now is who you will be when you get there. So the better you prepare yourself spiritually, emotionally, and physically now, the better, inshaAllah ta'ala, you will be able to do that. So spiritually, a lot of times people go to Hajj and say, I saw the Kaaba and nothing happened. They thought there was going to be a light that shines down and khalas, yani they become Imam al-Muslimin. And then they say, I saw the Kaaba and nothing happened. I went to Arafah and instead of making dua, I took a nap and had minsaf, right? And they say nothing happened when I was in Arafah. And the reality is because ibadah is through the heart. Yani the source of ibadah is through the heart. And if the heart has been lazy for a long time, and the heart has not been utilized for a long time, then the heart is not going to be muhayya or ready for the maqam or the mawqif, the circumstance that you're in. So from now, get used to it. Make dua. In fact, I was just telling a brother today after Fajr, Jazakallah khair, I was telling him, get used to just spending time with Allah. Like go to the masjid and sit in the masjid between Maghrib and Isha, or between Asr and Maghrib, or from Fajr to Shuruq or Ishraq. Like sit in that time and just be alone with Allah and talk to Allah and make dua to Allah. If you don't do that throughout the year and all of a sudden you're going to do that when you go to Hajj, you're gonna, like, after 2 minutes start checking your phone and then see your messages. Did I take a selfie today? Is my ihram look good? Like all of these different things, like all these distractions. And so you want to make sure that you are spiritually preparing yourself from now, inshallah, through dua, dhikr, qira'at al-Quran, most importantly, dhikr. وَلَا ذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. Just be a person of dhikr consistently. Sometimes you're going to be too tired to read Quran. Sometimes you're going to be too tired to even make the talbiyah too loud. That's fine. But if there's one thing I can tell you that's unique about Hajj, in a way that nothing else is like Hajj, is that the entirety of Hajj is an act of ibadah. Like min awwalihi ila akhirihi. Like the entirety of Hajj is an act of ibadah. And so that means that you want to be carrying yourself in a way that indicates that you are in ibadah. And the best thing that you can do is to be in a state of dhikr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in the Quran, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, udhkurullaha dhikran kathira. O you who believe, remember Allah abundantly, excessively, continuously. Many times when Allah commands us to do the fara'id and the wajibat in the Quran, He doesn't give us an amount. When He says, aqimu salah and atu zakat, pray salah and give in charity and even fasting, He doesn't encourage us subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have to do it excessively. But with dhikr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do it abundantly and excessively. So all of this to say, when you are in Hajj and in preparation for Hajj, get used to doing dhikr often. Often. Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. And feel the dhikr as you say it. Like be checked into the dhikr as you say it. And not just to do it mechanically, كأنه يعني شيء عليك, like it's as if it's something you're just doing for the sake of doing it. Don't be like a checklist person. Checklist, I saw the Kaaba. Checklist, I did tawaf. Checklist. No, like you have to experience these things, right? Al-Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala, he refers to it as hudur al-qalb. Like the heart has to be present when you are doing these things, right? And sometimes that takes practice for the heart to be able to be present for these things. Of course, some practical things. At the pace that we're going, we'll finish by Isha, inshallah ta'ala. I'm just joking, inshallah. But some practical things, of course, make sure you have all your prescriptions beforehand. You have all your medications beforehand. Anything that will make your health easier, like I'll encourage you, even hydration is something that people struggle with a lot when you are there, because typically we're not used to that level of physical movement, and also just that constant movement in and of itself. So like you could get like these liquid IV packs, or this is not sponsored by them or anything, but like little like packs for like hydration and these kind of things. And that would be something that can help you. Also like energy bar, nutritional bars. These are things that can help you, inshallah ta'ala. And it's a good reminder actually to be more mindful of our diet, what we consume, how we eat. And Hajj is a reminder to eat with purpose and with meaning. Not to eat for tasali, for fun, but to eat with purpose and with meaning. So you see, you're going to find yourself doing that. And that's how Hajj rectifies us. Like there's a bag of chips and then there's an orange. No, you'll be like, this orange is going to be better for me in the long run, right? So to be conscious of that. Of course, not only that, but to pack clothes that will make your journey better. You're not going to wear, akramakumullah, your ihram for like 15 days. In fact, you'll wear your ihram, like especially the brothers, the white garments, you're wearing it for like 2 to 3 days, and 4 days max, depending on the Hajj that you do. But that the rest of the time, wearing light clothes, light colored garments specifically is good, especially for the brothers. Loose clothing is something that, inshallah ta'ala, will make your time easier, inshallah ta'ala. Not to wear like particularly thick clothes or dark colored things to make it easier for you. Another thing that people typically don't think about for some reason is their footwear. Footwear is very, very, very important when you are in Hajj. Because you walk in Hajj. I remember I was with a Hajj, Allah yahfadha, and she said that in Hajj, she walked more than the entire year combined. And that may not be your situation depending on what camp you're in. That may not be your situation. But Miskin al-Hajj, she came in heels. And so we had to go shoe shopping for her, right? And so even though, of course, everything is readily available, the question you have to ask yourself is, do I want to spend my time in Hajj shoe shopping, or do I want to spend my time in Hajj in ibadah? And the right answer, in case it's not clear, is that you want to spend it in ibadah and in ta'ah and in resting, honestly, equally resting, in order for you to do the ibadah. Because the one who does not rest is going to get burnt out, then they're going to get sick, and then they're going to be bedridden, and then the only salah that they're going to hear in the haram is in the hotel room while they're coughing and sneezing. But rather you have to rest in order for you to recover. So footwear is very, very important. Get something comfortable, get something durable, get something like, even you might want to consult your doctor if you have like a history of like fee issues, that you might need something with more support or something that's more loose, akramakumullah. So make sure that you do that. The other thing that I want to recommend from يعني من ناحية logistikiya is that, like, something that cannot be stressed enough is your majmu'ah is your jama'ah. The group that you're going with is your family. And yadullahi fawqa al-jama'a, yadullahi ma'a al-jama'a, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives barakah and tawfiq to the jama'ah. So be with the people. And part of being with the people is that you have your cell phone figured out, the WhatsApp group figured out, the Nusuk app figured out, all of these things figured out. And let me be very clear. Don't say, oh, my wife will take care of it, or my husband will take care of it, or fulan, my son is coming with me, he will take care of it. No, you will need to know, because la qadar Allah, la samahallah, if you are in a position where you are lost, which is very common in Hajj, then you don't want to be like, your son is not around you. Your son may not have wanted, or your daughter may not have wanted, azakumullah, to separate from you, but the circumstance had it be. So you want to be connected to the jama'ah and treat them like your family. And it's beautiful that you start the Hajj journey as complete strangers with people, and by the end of the Hajj journey, they become literally like your family. Like, there's people, I'll travel to different parts, and I'll see people, and they'll come and they'll give me a hug like they're my uncle. And the worst feeling in the world is, we're like, do you remember me? And I'm like, I remember your face. I did Hajj with you 10 years ago. And subhanAllah, there's a connection that we share. The minute that they say that, you remember the Hajj that you did with them. So these people become your family. You go through mawaqib haqiqatan sa'ba with them. You go through difficult times with them, easy times, laughing times, crying times with them. It's important to that. And satus'al. Remember that we will be asked by Allah Jalla Jalaluh, that Allah chose for you to go to Hajj, and Allah chose for these people to go to Hajj with you. How were you with them, and how were they with you? And what did you do in response? So to make sure that we connect with the majmu'ah and that we become a part of the jama'ah. And part of that is making sure that your cell phone data plan is activated. If you have like T-Mobile, yani it has a good international data plan. If not, يعني على كل حال الأمور تتيسر, like things become easy. You just go ahead and when you go there, through your service provider, you'll be able to get like a Saudi SIM card. You'll need a copy of your passport, maybe a copy of your visa, but if you have those papers with you, then you'll be able to get that SIM card, inshallah ta'ala. طيب. Now, remind me again, where are we going first? Aktharukum are going to Medina first. Allahu Akbar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from the people of Medina. And many of you have, how many of you have never went to Medina before? Wow, that's incredible. Wallahi, that is so special, subhanallah. I will tell you that you will never feel at home the way that you feel at home in Medina. And I can say that, يعني, like as a matter of fact. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he described Medina as the home of every believing woman and man. That's why one of the names of Al-Madina is Ad-Dar and Tayyibah and Taba. It's a place of purification. It's a place of healing, and it is home. It is your home. And subhanAllah, even though it's not an ancestral home for some of us from like a genealogical perspective, it is an ancestral home of our hearts that you will find it to be home for you, inshallah ta'ala. Some of what we'll recommend in terms of preparing for Medina is that from now you begin to increase in salawat upon the Prophet salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Right? يعني in preparation استعدادا لزيارة الحبيب المصطفى صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم, that we increase in salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from now. The other thing is that spend some time revisiting the seerah, engaging with the seerah, so that when you go there, you have a familiarity and you have a connection with him. And that's not to say that you haven't studied the seerah before, but your experience with the seerah before does not negate your need to revisit it with your heart and with your soul now, right? And that this is something that, inshallah ta'ala, will be, even if it's just one lecture on YouTube while you're driving to work, another lecture, the Medinan period, the Meccan period, these things, it will increase your shawq, your love and your connection and your yearning to be with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and you go there and you give salam to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Medina is very straightforward. When you go there, you'll meet your group there. You might meet them, for example, if you're taking an airline, you'll meet them at like the hub. Like if you're taking Turkish, you'll meet them in Istanbul. Perhaps maybe you'll meet them in Medina, right? And, and so on. But eventually you'll meet them in Medina. And one thing that happens sometimes is that as Americans, even if you're not born American, is that we develop this tendency to always be anxious about the next step. What's next? What's next? What's next? You are anxious to get off the plane. The second you get off the plane, you're anxious to go through customs. The second you go through customs, you're anxious to go to your baggage claim. The second you go to baggage claim, you're anxious about the bus outside. لا ما استفدنا. You're going to be anxious the whole day, right? يعني على كل حال, in all circumstances, you're eventually going to land, inshallah. And you're eventually going to go through customs, even if the customs line is 2 hours, right? You're eventually going to get your bag. And if your bag is lost, who cares, right? Everything will be found. And we live in 2024. And you're eventually going to get on the bus. And then you're eventually going to go to the hotel. For a person that's consistently thinking about the next, and this truly is like it's a Western phenomenon. It's something we observe. This is an individual that is never fully living in the moment. دايما مستعجلين. They're always in the next step. Don't be in the next step. Be in the step that you're in. Because who said that the plane ride is not ta'a and ibadah? العكس, sometimes the best ibadah that you have is 30,000 feet in the air when you're reading Quran and making dua. Everyone around you is sleeping and snoring, a'anahumullah, and you're sitting there making dua to Allah and your tears flow and you say, Ya Allah, the only reason I left my wife, the only reason I left my kids is I left them for you, Ya Allah. And so every moment that you're in is a moment that you need to be present in. Even when you're waiting in the customs line and the Saudi officers are drinking shai and qahwa and eating tamr, that's fine. Let them do their thing. Let them do what they do and you do what you do. You do sabr, you make dua, you continue to engage in dhikr. One time, subhanAllah, I was in a line like that with one of the mashayikh, and he was doing tasmi' to another one of the hujjaj. And as we were standing in the line, he recited all of Juz' Tabarak. He was just chilling. He was just sitting on his luggage, and he just recited all of Juz' Tabarak. And I was sitting there just waiting for the next thing to happen. I was like, Wallah rahat alay, like that was a missed opportunity. Your goal is not the next step. Your goal is the step that you're in. You are exactly where Allah Jalla Jalaluh wants you to be. And if you're constantly waiting for the next thing, تتعب حالك وتتعب من حولك كمان. You're going to tire yourself and you're going to tire the people around you as well. So you're going to get to Medina. You'll get off the plane. You and the Ummah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are getting off the plane. Then you're going to get a visa. You and the whole Ummah are getting visas. There's no rush. Then after that, you're going to get your bags. And everybody wants to be the only person getting their bag. It's like Yawm al-Qiyamah, nafsi, nafsi. Everyone is worried about themselves. Just take it easy. Just as long as you're communicative with your group, you're transparent about your situation, and you're addressing al-awlawiyat, the priorities, right? Making sure that you have what's the most important thing right now, inshallah ta'ala. Then you'll get your bag, you'll get on the bus, and you'll go to the hotel. When you go to the hotel, typically when you go to Florida, you go to Hawaii, you go to the hotel, it's the best feeling in the world. The room is waiting for you. You're treated like royalty. That's probably not going to happen. You're going to get there. They're going to tell you it's 3 p.m. The room will not be ready till 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. La ba's, inshallah. No problem. What do? You ask them where the washroom is. Akramakumullah. You go, you make wudu, you freshen up, and then you go to the haram. And if the room is ready, you can go to the room, you can get some rest, you can take a shower, you can freshen up. And that is totally fine, inshallah ta'ala. And you spend your time in Medina as much as possible in i'tikaf. What do I mean by i'tikaf? I'tikaf means do not spend it in the aswaq alone. Do not spend it consumed about your long list of people you need to gift. Everything they can buy on Amazon now. Everything they can buy on Alibaba. Everything is purchasable. Of course, you want to do takreem and you want to be generous, but don't let that become your number one priority. Do i'tikaf in the masjid. Sit in the masjid. Talk to Allah. Talk to Allah about your business ventures. Talk to Allah about your children. Talk to Allah about your daughter that you want to get married. Talk to Allah about your son. Talk to Allah about your parents that passed away 20 years ago. Talk to Allah about everything, and engage with the Quran, of course, as well. And just go. And then, of course, people may say, I need to go to the washroom. Alhamdulillah, all the hotels are close by. You go back to your hotel and you use the washroom as you need. You make wudu as you need, and then you go back to the haram, inshallah ta'ala. The group will have like muhadarat or durus like this, which inshallah ta'ala will be, shorter than this one. And every step of the way, they will tell you the next step of the way. That's why we don't need to stress. Every step of the way, they will tell you the next step of the way, inshallah ta'ala. وَهَذَا مِن فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا. And this is like a big blessing that we have, that not everybody before us has that we have like a murshid with us, that in every step of Hajj, he will inform us of the next step. And so don't stress, but be present. Try to go to the salawat ala waqt al-adhan wa qabl al-adhan. أحيانا قبل الأذان بكثير. Try to go at the adhan or before the adhan significantly, especially when you're in Mecca. And equally, honestly, even in Medina, if you want to sit comfortably, some of us might be older, so we need to find a chair. Some of us might like have physical ailments. We need a wall to lean against. This is not going to happen if you're going late. You'll show up, you're praying in the saha, and there's cats in front of you, and there's like halatna hala, right? Like it's a tough situation. Of course, even that salah has its own jamal and has its own jalal, has its own beauty. If you go early, not just logistically it'll be better, but even like this is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, is that we wait for salawat, right? Not that we show up at the iqamah or we show up after the first rak'ah, but that we are waiting for the salah, right? And so this is something that we can begin to do in Medina. In Medina, you'll go for like some tours. You'll visit Masjid Quba. Masjid Quba is the first masjid of Islam. حينما هاجر النبي صلوات الله وسلامه عليه مع سيدنا أبو بكر رضي الله تعالى عنه, he built the masjid in the way, on his way to Medina, and that is Masjid Quba. There's a lot of history there, and it's a beautiful masjid. And now there's actually a mamsha from Al-Masjid al-Nabawi. There's like a walkway, like a very nice walkway. Almost feels touristy actually now. And it's all the way from Masjid Quba, from Masjid al-Nabawi to Masjid Quba. And there's coffee shops on the way, and you'll enjoy it, inshallah ta'ala. And I encourage you to try to do something like this, unless your group is going during the day. These are typically things that are good to do in the evening when it's not so hot, because it's not a short walk, it's a longer walk. It's like an hour walk. And there are golf carts. Yeah, even if you can't walk, you can get on the golf cart. It's not too expensive. And then you'll have a tour around Medina. You'll have a tour around Medina, and you'll visit Uhud and Shuhada Uhud, where many of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum are buried. You'll also visit. You'll pass by Al Khandaq, where there is Al Masajid al Sab'a, or Masjid al Khandaq, which is where the Battle of the Trench took place. You'll visit, inshallah ta'ala. You'll pass by Qiblatain, or Masjid Bani Salama, where it's narrated that the Qibla changed. Ila akhirih. These are some of the places that you'll walk around and that you'll visit, inshallah ta'ala. But the vast majority of your time in Medina is actually spiritually preparing yourself for Hajj and engaging in the ibadah, to do that, and connecting with the group and getting comfortable with one another, inshallah ta'ala. I'm trying to be mindful of time, but we'll open up the floor for questions for the next 8 minutes, inshallah. Yes, sister. Yes. She can spend time in the courtyard, and she could spend time in the courtyard and spend that time doing the dhikr and engaging in other worship. Generally, the scholars have differing opinions surrounding the permissibility of her entering the masjid, and it's a longer discussion. But if we want to play it safe, then what we can say is that the safe is that you can spend time in like the courtyard and still feel the ambiance that you're in and engage in the other forms of ta'ah other than prayer. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Good question, mashallah. Yes. How'd that go for you? Hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Right. And the price that we're paying for it in Hajj, just to kind of comment on what the brother said. The sister, just to reiterate the questions, Jazakumullah khairan, the sister was asking about perhaps if a sister is not in a state where she can pray, what does she do in terms of being in Medina? We mentioned that while there are various opinions surrounding the permissibility of her entering the masjid during that time, that what is acceptable is that, and even to externalize ourselves from the area of khilaf, that she can stay in the Sahat al-Haram al-Nabawi, and she can sit there and engage in dhikr and dua and other acts of worship, give in charity, and so on and so forth. And then that would be, inshallah ta'ala, something that she can do. And you can give your salam from there as well to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Um, and the reward will be there. Remember, the nature of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu is that He rewards based off of two things. What are the two things? Intentions and effort, right? Intentions and effort. فَإِنَّ أَجْرُكَ عَلَى قَدْرِ نَصَبُكِ, right? Your reward is based off of your intention. So as long as you have the intention and the effort, that inshallah ta'ala the ajr is there. And this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's karam and lutf and rahmah upon us, inshallah ta'ala. Then the brother was mentioning that you'll pay an exorbitant amount of money and you'll find yourself between Arafah and Muzdalifah carrying yani more than you weigh in things, and you'll wonder where all this was happening, and this becomes a fitna for some. I remember we had arrived, too many stories from Hajj, but just something quick. We arrived in Medina, we checked into the hotel, and a brother came down furious. He said, my room doesn't have a haram view. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. قلت له طيب يا أخي, just go outside. Why you fi haram? That's it. That's all you have to do. And he said, no, I paid for it and everything. I said, I understand that you paid for it. But I'm letting you know that this is your hal right now. They are saying that there's nothing that we can do about it. He sat at the guest check-in desk for all of Dhuhr, all of Asr, and all of Maghrib, fighting them to get his haram view. At Maghrib, he got his haram view. طيب, I don't know what happened with Isha. The next day, I saw him at breakfast, and I told him, "Akhi, how's everything? How's the hotel?" He says, "Wallah مش معجبني الأكل. I don't like the food." And I told him why. He said, "مثل أكل البيت." Like it's like a home food. I was like, I thought that's a compliment. When you say food is like home food, that's a compliment. Yani. But all of this to say, all of this to say that like this is the wasawas of shaitan. That he's like he kept repeating, this is how much I paid. This is how much I did. This is a fitna. يمنون عليك أن أسلموا قل لا تمنوا علي إسلامكم بل الله يمن عليكم أن هداكم للإيمان. Like you did not do Allah any favors. Allah did you a favor. Allah owes you nothing and you owe Allah everything. So don't change the dynamic where now like the malaika need to roll out the red carpet for you and the grapes need to come from the heavens in order for you to, no, like Hajj has mashaqqa. And it is enough of a mashaqqa that you left the people that you love. You left your children, you left your family, you left your job, you left all of these things. And we leave it to remind ourselves that we love Allah more. We love Allah more, and Allah is greater than everything that we seek. So these are just some thoughts. Ala kulli hal, we'll leave Medina now, okay? And leaving Medina only becomes easier because you're going to Mecca. But those who leave Medina to go back home, Allah ya'inhum. It's a tough situation. يعني emotionally. Now, just some things to highlight, inshallah ta'ala. Oh, you had a question. I'm so sorry. سامحيني. تفضلي. Yes. Yes, this is a great point. Going to Masjid Quba is not just like a historic experience. The Prophet ﷺ says that the one who goes to Masjid Quba, and the Prophet ﷺ used to go there on Saturday, and he would go there, and it would be that he would pray there and he would meet with people there. And so he ﷺ said, the one who goes to Quba and prays 2 rak'at, that they get the reward of a umrah complete, tam. And so this is the cheapest umrah package that you'll have, is the umrah of going to Masjid Quba. That you'll just go there, pray 2 rak'at, and you will have the reward of umrah, inshaAllah ta'ala. Without tawaf and sa'i kaman, yes. So that is easy. طيب, now you're in Medina and you're going to go to Mecca, inshaAllah ta'ala. طيب, we'll try to go quicker now, inshaAllah. Now you're going to be getting ready for ihram. What do you do when you get ready for ihram? You go into the washroom, akramakumullah wa a'azzakum, and you take a shower. You take a shower, you do a ghusl. But you make sure that you have niyat al-ghusl within that as well, right? The niyyah of ghusl within that as well, inshallah ta'ala. And this is for both men and women. And then we do like the standard Muslim grooming, which is to remove the hair that an individual ought to remove from the body, right? Like the hair that's in the armpits and around the awra area. And then, of course, an individual would typically trim the nails and remove the hair, then take the shower. Trim the nails if you have nails to trim, remove the hair if there's hair to be removed, and then you take the ghusl shower, like the shar'i ghusl. And of course, there is the wajib of ghusl, and then there is the sunnah of ghusl. And the wajib of ghusl is that you have the niyyah of doing it as an act of worship, and your whole body is wet. And this is enough for the wajib or the fard of ghusl. But the sunnah is that while you are making this niyyah, that you also perform the wudu within your ghusl. And then, of course, you do it in the sunnah way, where you wash the right side of your body and the left side of your body. And then you make sure that your whole body is wet. Ila akhirihi. This is not like a fiqh of tahara class, but ala kulli hal, you complete the wudu in its completion and in its totality, insha'Allah ta'ala, and the ghusl in its totality. So you do that, and then at this point of time, you're going to wear your ihram. Right? Now we want to differentiate that there's 2 types of ihram. There is the ihram that is a garment that you're wearing, and then there is the ihram, which is a hal that you enter. These are not the same thing. Does that make sense? The hal of ihram and libas al-ihram. The hal of ihram is something that is entered through niyyah and through approaching the miqat. Whereas the libas of ihram, you're going to wear it from your hotel, especially those going, you're going to put it on. You're wearing it, and so now you are wearing the ihram, but you haven't entered the state of ihram, right? And so you want to be conscious of that. So you're wearing the ihram, and then you get on the bus and you go to the train station likely, and you'll go on the train, and then while you are on the train, you will make the niyyah. Some of the groups, the group leader, you're actually, as soon as you're wearing ihram, you can make the niyyah from wherever you are. You could actually make the niyyah as you're wearing the ihram from Turkey or wherever, or Jordan or whatever. You can combine between libas al-ihram and niyyat al-ihram at any point of time that you have it on. You can even do it from the hotel, or you may do it from the train station, or on the train as you are approaching the miqat. And there's no virtue of one over the other. Just that a person needs to be conscious that once they make niyyat al-ihram, that they enter the state of ihram. And now you've combined between libas al-ihram and niyyat al-ihram, right? And so you're wearing the 2 garments. Now, what is the ihram for men? The ihram for men is, of course, wearing the 2 garments and nothing else with it, underneath it, particularly no fitted garments, right? Such as a shirt or an undergarment or a pants or a sock, ila akhirihi. That these are things that we do not wear while we are in a state of ihram. And of course that we also are not covering, we're not wearing anything fitted on our head, nor on our feet, nor anywhere else on our body. So you're typically wearing the two pieces of ihram, inshallah ta'ala. For the woman, the ihram is that they are fully covered while exposing their hands and their face. That they are fully covered while exposing their hands and their face. That this is the ihram of a woman, insha'Allah ta'ala. Now, why it is important to differentiate between the libas of ihram and the niyat al-ihram is because the niyat al-ihram needs to be done biqasd. It is with an intention that you enter the state of ihram, and it is bilafz as well, and it is with a statement as well, right? That a person says, and there are different variations, so don't stress if what you say or what your murshid says is different than this. If he says labbaik Allahumma hajjan or labbaik Allahumma hajjan wa umratan ila akhirih, that this is the making of the niyyah. And if you've done hajj before and you're doing hajj for someone else, that you add the clause of an fulan, that you mention their name. And then as soon as you make that, you've entered the state of ihram. Even if you are far from the miqat, right? There's the mawaqit, the places that are the borders of entering the state of ihram. And of course, many of you mentioned that you're going from Medina, and so your miqat is as Dhul Hulayfa or Abiyar Ali. That is the miqat that you'll be passing by. That you, regardless of where you make it, that once you say labbaik Allahumma hajjan wa umratan or labbaik Allahumma umrah, depending on the hajj that you're doing, that now you enter the state of ihram and immediately you begin to do the talbiyah. Immediately you begin to do the talbiyah. And the talbiyah is one of those acts of worship that there are only suwayat, hours in your entire life that you do the talbiyah. And that's why the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is that the days of Hajj are Hajj and Thajj, that they are days in which you raise your voice in the takbirat. Like, let that be your defaulted position. Wallahi, there was a brother with us in Hajj. He did the takbirat so consistently that he lost his voice. And think about it, and I'm not encouraging you to do that by any means, but it is to say that it is something that a person should remember. What did we say? Dhikr, dhikr, dhikr at every moment, right? To be a people of dhikr. No matter, you may say, my tawaf is not perfect, my umrah is not perfect, my sa'i is not perfect, I got into a fight with my spouse, I argued with that one guy, I threw a water bottle, like, don't even ask. Like ajayib, right? But dhikr is in al-hasanat yudhibna sayyat, right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala erases the bad deeds with good deeds, and the best good deed that we can do, inshallah ta'ala, is in fact to be in a state of dhikr, inshallah ta'ala. طيب. You, of course, some of the scholars, they say that when you make the niyyah, you can pray 2 rak'at. This is something that generally a person is certainly not required to do. That when you make the niyyah and you enter the state of ihram, that you pray 2 rak'at, you certainly don't need to do it. But if a person wishes to do it, then it is permissible for them to do it. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. So what are the mahdhurat al-ihram? What are the things that jeopardize your ihram? What are the things that jeopardize your ihram? Who can tell me? I'm sorry. No, you will break your wudu many times in ihram. Yes, yeah. You do not need to stay in your ihram. You do not need to stay in wudu while you're in ihram, which is important. It's a good question, because that would be very difficult. Because if you sleep, right, or if you use the washroom, may Allah honor you, then you are not obliged to remain in a state of. You're not obliged to remain in a state of wudu. But what you mentioned, the other thing you mentioned, was that you cannot intentionally remove hair. You cannot pluck hair, right? That this is one of the things that we don't do while we're in the state of ihram. Everyone is excited about the scented, right? So no engaging with scented items, right? And alhamdulillah, again, in the era of Amazon, you can buy unscented soap, unscented toothpaste, unscented deodorant, unscented Vaseline, everything you can get unscented, and all of this is very easily accessible. Even there, if you don't have it, you just go Some of you are probably staying in the move and pick in Medina, right? Anybody here staying in the move and pick in Medina? Oberoi. Yeah, in both of those, you'll have a Bin Dawood. Bin Dawood is like if Walmart and Walgreens came together. But they have everything you can imagine. But if you can get it beforehand, get it beforehand. Why? Because all of Ummah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are going to be trying to get it, and you're not there to shop. You're there to do ibadah. I want to print that on a shirt and hand it to each of you, right? I'm not here to shop. I'm here to do ibadah, right? Um, so try to get it beforehand, inshallah ta'ala. So no engaging with sense, no engaging with sense, right? Now this is where there is again some level of khilaf, and this is when you're in the state of ihram. Like I'm at the hotel. The hotel has soap. Can I use the soap? Generally, I would advise, and to be safe, I would advise against that and recommend that you get unscented soap and you use that with you. Even though some of the scholars argue that the al-qasdu bihi laysa tatayyub, that the intent of it is not to get scent. The intent of it is antibacterial, like to remove the germs, right? Even though most of those soaps in the hotels are not antibacterial anyway. But for the sake of it, it's better to get just unscented antibacterial, and always, of course, bring with you a hand sanitizer and these things. But get whatever you get it unscented, because that is one of the mahdurat. Okay, hand sanitizer as well. They give it unscented. You can purchase it unscented, right? But what else is another one? So we said the removing of the hair. I'm sorry, and relations with your spouse leads to it. One time, my sister came. There's too many stories, and she said my husband has been so all of Hajj, and he said you said everything that leads to it. She said he's not even looking at me. He doesn't have breakfast with me. He's not sitting with me. All of these things. And he said, you know, if I sit with her, then I'm going to talk to her. If I talk to her, then I'm going to joke with her. If I joke with her, and I said, Akhi, you're complicating an easy matter. يعني معروف المقصد به. The intended of it is not to do the things that lead to intimacy and the likes of it. So that is something that jeopardizes the ihram. But general kindness and love is something that is acceptable, inshallah ta'ala. What are some of the other mahdurat that we have? You cannot not only engage in intimacy, but you also cannot get married while you're in ihram. So you might go with your Hajj group as a single person. There's a single sister there with her father. The ammo falls in love with you before the girl falls in love with you, and now everyone wants to do nikah ala Jabal Arafah. هذا لا يجوز. This is not acceptable. You can come back to Arafah after Hajj if you want for like the vibe, but generally there is no getting into marriage while you are in a state of ihram. Of course, like we mentioned, fitted clothing as well. The clipping of the nails, just want to make sure we don't miss anything. And of course, the covering of the head, I feel like is something that people don't focus on. Like it's very easy. Like guys will just be like hanging out, and then the ihram like becomes like this like handy dandy thing that you can do whatever you want with, right? And they'll start covering their head. It gets hot, so they start covering. Like this is something that a person should not do. You don't cover your head, especially for the men, and for the women, you don't cover your face or your hands, inshallah ta'ala. And of course, no hunting. So if you go and you're hungry and your group doesn't have food and you see a nice little gazelle, you don't hunt that. No cutting down trees within the haram, and so on and so forth. So these are the mahdurat generally that we've covered. And what if a person engages with the mahdurat? Immediately go to your group leader and let them know. They may ask you some questions. The things that jeopardize your ihram is basically what we're talking about. These are the things that jeopardize your ihram. If you engage in them or you question whether you engage with them in them or not, go to your spiritual leaders and they'll let you know if there is a dam or a fidya or a kafara that needs to be done and what the appropriate one is for that. And know that as long as you fulfill the arkan of Hajj, as long as you fulfill the arkan of Hajj, the pillars of Hajj, that inshallah ta'ala your Hajj is sound. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَن يُخَفِّفَ عَنْكُمْ. Allah wishes for your Hajj to be accepted. And Allah wishes for your Hajj to be made easy. This is not mission impossible that only a handful of people will end with Hajj completed. Rather, inshallah ta'ala, natafa'al wa nuhsin al-dhan. We are optimistic and hopeful that all of us will have a completed Hajj, and inshallah ta'ala, all of us will have not only a completed Hajj but an accepted Hajj as well, inshallah ta'ala. Right? Okay, so now you're wearing the ihram. You go to the hotel in Mecca through the train. You're doing the talbiyah. You fall asleep. You wake up, no problem. You use the washroom. You renew your wudu, no problem. You take a nap, no problem. All of these things are fine. You get to the hotel, same situation. Hotel may not be ready. Hotel may be ready. Luggage may be lost. Welcome to Hajj. This is real life, right? You then go forward, and your group says, at this time, we're going to go to Umrah together. I strongly encourage you to do the Umrah, especially if it's your first time, with the group. Do not do it by yourself. Even if you've done a Umrah by yourself, a Umrah at the time of Hajj is very different than a Umrah outside of Hajj. So make sure that you do the Umrah with the group. Let me tell you just some things. The Haram is bigger than you think it is. The Kaaba is bigger than you think it is. And Safa and Marwa are longer than you think they are. These are just facts of life. And so it's very easy to get lost, very easy to, and this is not to make you anxious. You have your cute little ID, it has your name on it, has your ID number on it, it has the hotel that you're staying on it. يعني الأمور تتيسر. يعني I'm not telling you so that you can stress, but I'm informing you so that you can be best equipped to have a smooth time. So don't be like, afwan. If it happens, yeah, you try your best to go with the group, inshallah ta'ala, with the majmu'ah for the Hajj, inshallah ta'ala, for the Umrah rather. Yes, my brother. You certainly can. You certainly can wear a belt, like a fanny pack or something like that, or like they even sell the belts over there. So you're going to Medina first? Perfect. You can even find a nice belt there that has like pockets in it. I would encourage that, and to keep an eye on it as well, because you might want to carry like your phone in it, maybe your room key. So don't carry all of your money in it, but have that with you, inshallah ta'ala. Let me clarify that there are two types of. We're gonna get there soon, but I forgot what the term was in this nusuk situation that you all are in. But there's like those people that are non-shifting, and there's people that are shifting, right? And non-shifting, which one is the one where you have a hotel the whole time? Non-shifting. Who here is non-shifting? MashaAllah, good choice. Who here is shifting? MashaAllah, yassar Allahu amrakum. No, alhamdulillah. الامور الخير في الجميع ان شاء الله تعالى. Like things are going to be easy في كل الاحوال ان شاء الله تعالى. Just that there are some extra things to be conscious of when you are dealing with that situation, and inshallah ta'ala, the service providers will be keeping all of that into account. But all of this to say that if you have a hotel room, which you do, it sounds like consistently you will have a hotel room, even during the days of Mina, you will have a hotel room, right? So if that is the case, then I would try to take advantage of like the safe that's in the room to keep your unless the service provider or the group leader tells you otherwise, try to let that be where you're sitting, and just keep some like loose change and some money as much as you need with you. But that defaultedly try your best to keep the stuff in the room, because that's one of the advantages of having a room, inshallah ta'ala. So now you've landed, and the group is going to meet to go do Umrah. And you meet in like the lobby of the hotel. What hotels are folks staying in? The Hilton. What else? Sofitel. Very good, mashallah. Mecca Tower. Okay, mashallah. What else? Any knowledge? I'm sorry? No, not that, just the name of the hotel. Oh, it's called the address. Yes, that's going to get complicated very quickly. Definitely have like it's next to the clock tower. Is it in like the Jabal Umar area, like the new towers behind the clock towers? MashaAllah. Oh, it's next to the Hilton. Okay, the new Hilton or the old Hilton? Yes, so it's that means it's probably in like there's like. So I wish I prepared slides. Let me just be very direct and say that. So basically, you have the clock tower, which some argue to be a sign of the Day of Judgment, but that's not our discussion. Has a lot of hotels in it, right? Behind the clock tower, to the side a little bit, there is a row of hotel towers, like they're literally towers. Those are called the Jabal Umar Towers. Why is it called the Jabal Umar Towers? Because in the exact place of those hotels was once a mountain that was called the Mountain of Umar. They removed the mountain and they built these towers instead. So one of them is called the Hilton, one of them is the Hyatt Regency, one of them is the Conrad, and the ila akhirihi. There's multiple. But regardless, all of those hotels are good hotels that are in close proximity to the haram, inshallah. So you'll meet, again, for the sake of time, we'll move rather quickly. You'll meet in the hotel lobby, and now you're going to go together to perform the umrah. And many of you some of you have done umrah before, but by the show of hands, most of you have not done umrah before. You will leave from the hotel, you'll continue to do the talbiyah, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, until you reach the Kaaba. Until you reach the Kaaba. When you see the Kaaba, this is a moment of dua. على قول كثير من أهل العلم, this is a moment of dua. And it is a moment of accepted dua, right? So you make dua when you see the Kaaba, inshallah. You may need to pray. You may be catching a salah with the jama'ah, like the collective of the ummah, or you may be praying a maghrib and isha with your own majmu'ah, with your own group. Either one of these is fine. You may park to the side in the haram or in the saha or in the masjid, and you pray together there, and then you'll continue to perform the umrah, right? This is a point of time when it is very possible that individuals become separated. Why? Because people that are wheelchair limited, they will need to be in particular areas of the haram, whereas individuals that are by foot may be able to go into, for example, the sahan. The sahan is like the lowest level, the closest proximity to the Kaaba, right? Now, the terms there are very different than the terms here versus ground level, lower level, first level. Like the first level there is never the first level, right? It's always a different. So you want to make sure that you familiarize yourself with the terminology before you understand where your group is, if you're trying to like find them or reach them or these things. طيب? You enter the haram. Let's say that you're no longer with your entire majmu'ah, your entire group, but you're with a subgroup, right? That may also be with wheelchairs or also be on the ground level. And sometimes the ground level is so full that even though you're walking by foot, you cannot go on the ground level like the sahin, but you're in that main level to do tawaf. What this does is it makes your tawaf significantly longer, like very long, right? And the higher you are generally, the longer your tawaf is, right? And that's why we said we need to begin doing daily walks from now. And challenge yourself, walk more and more and more, inshallah ta'ala. But what if a person needs a wheelchair? Does the person in the wheelchair get less reward than the one who is by foot? Not at all. And in fact, the Prophet ﷺ did his tawaf al-ifada. He did it what? Riding a camel. Salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Now, some will say he did that so that everyone could see him, and this is true. But it was also so that everyone could see him doing what? Riding a camel, right? In order to indicate to us al-jawaz, like the permissibility of it. To an extent that is a permissibility that may be applicable to individuals that may not need it, but are doing it min bab al-ihtiyat, for the sake of precautionary measures, so as they don't injure or strain themselves in anticipation of Hajj. Because remember, you're in it for the long run. There's still Arafah, there's still Muzdalifah, there's all of these things in front of you. You want to preserve yourself for that, inshallah ta'ala. Ala kulli hal, let's use, I don't have anything particularly square in front of me, but let's use my phone, which is black as well, so it helps. Let's use this as the black stone, okay? Now, the way that Hajj begins, and this is where men will need to make some adjustments to their ihram. What are the adjustments that they make to ihram? They expose their shoulder. Which shoulder do they expose? Their right shoulder, right? The one that is away from the Kaaba, right? The one that is away from the Kaaba. You expose the right shoulder, you throw it over, and now you are ready to begin. Now, in the tawaf, the sunnah is that you do a little bit what is referred to as ramal, which is a little bit of like a fast-paced walk, like a quick walk. Now, how able you are to do that is mawdu' akhar, right? But that generally, that is something that is encouraged. Some people, they like begin almost to like jog in place, like ta'ziman li dhalik, right? To honor that that is what we ought to be doing. This is something that you can do, but you certainly don't need to do it. But remember, everything that you have the intention to do, that you try to do, you'll be rewarded as if you do it. So a lot of times we say, we don't need to do this, we don't need to do this, but that is not a green light to not intend them. Because it is in your interest to intend things that you can't do, because then you get the reward. Intend to kiss the black stone. You're not going to kiss the black stone, but you'll get the reward for kissing the black stone. So niyyah is everything. Hajj is madrasa, is a school that teaches us the power of niyyah. That everything that, remember we said about eating an orange instead of a bag of chips, even that in Hajj, yu'jar alayh, you get reward for that. Because why are you doing that? So that you can have energy for the ibadah or the ta'ah that you're doing later. Ala kulli hal, that was a tangent. And I keep saying I want to be more time conscious, and it's clearly not working out. But you're going to be approaching the black stone. As you approach the black stone, you may be like, I'm so far from the black stone. You want me to see the black? I can barely read the text on my phone. How am I going to see the black stone? Exactly across from the black stone is what? Green lights across the haram. Those are there to symbolize to us that this is where the black stone is. Like this is the black stone right across. Let's say that this is the sahan. Right across from here on the masjid walls, you will see the green lights that indicate that this is where the black stone is. You start from there. You say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. Now, do you face the black stone when you say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar? You do not face the black stone. You are just pointing to it, and you say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and you begin your tawaf. Now, quickly, of course, in tawaf is like a time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hands you the mic, and you can say whatever it may be. So some of our teachers encourage us that the first tawaf be hamd and thana, thanking Allah. The second tawaf, salawat upon the Prophet, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. The third tawaf, dua for yourself. The fourth tawaf, dua for your family. The fifth tawaf, dua for your qabr. The sixth tawaf, dua for your akhirah. The seventh tawaf, dua for the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is just one configuration. But the idea there is, it is important to have a theme for every tawaf. Maybe you have a loved one who's sick, shafahumullah wa afahum. You completely designate and honor a tawaf for them, for that dua. Maybe you have someone that you love who has passed away. You do a tawaf for them. Maybe you want to give a tawaf for Ahl Gaza. Nas'Allah yansurhum wa yataqabbal shuhada'ahum wa yudawi jarhahum wa yashfi mardahum. You can do an entire tawaf for them, like a shawt for them. Like you can do this, but my entire thing is there's going to be so many sounds around you, so much dua around you, so many smells around you, so much around you that it's going to be very easy to be distracted. You want to have something to anchor you and to help you through that time, insha'Allah ta'ala. And so this is something that is important, insha'Allah, in the process of Hajj, insha'Allah. To have themes consistently. You'll do the tawaf. Now, the corner before the black stone is called what? Rukn al-Yamani. To the black stone, this is a time when it is sunnah to say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Allah give us the best in this life, the best in the hereafter, and save us from the punishment of the grave. Allahumma ameen. You make that dua during that time. Now let me be very direct. What if a person forgets to say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar? What if a person forgets to say رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ? None of that removes the fact that you are doing a tawaf that is acceptable. As long as you have the intention of starting tawaf when you are supposed to, and you start it, then even if you forget to say the thing that you say, it does not jeopardize your tawaf. Tawaf, however, is an act that requires wudu. Tawaf requires wudu. So when you leave your hotel room or even the hotel lobby, go and renew your wudu. Tawaf requires wudu. When you finish the 7 ashwat, the 7 times around the Kaaba, you'll retreat to an area of the haram where it's safe. Maybe you'll see Maqam Ibrahim, maybe you won't see Maqam Ibrahim, the station of Abraham where he built the Kaaba from. Maybe you won't see it, it's not a problem. Regardless, you'll park on the side and you pray 2 rak'ats. And you pray these 2 rak'at, insha'Allah ta'ala. And at that point of time, you'll have completed your tawaf. Once you pray those 2 rak'at, your wudu is no longer required. Your wudu is no longer required for the umrah. What may happen is that while you are doing your sa'i, it will become salah time again. Now that salah is going to require a wudu. But generally, the sa'i itself, like the going between the mountain of Safa and the mountain of Marwa, that is not an act that requires wudu. So you are fine without having wudu at that time. طيب. على كل حال, you'll finish from the tawaf and you will pray your 2 rak'at and then you'll drink zamzam as it is recommended to drink zamzam at that time. Don't like take a full shower in zamzam, but drink some zamzam and maybe wash your face. Even some of the scholars, they say it's tradition. It's a tradition to like wash yourself with the zamzam to some degree, and then after that you make your way to the mas'ah, the place of sa'i. Sa'i starts from Safa and it ends at Marwa. You stand at Safa and you recite the ayah إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله فمن حج البيت واعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما إلى آخر الآية, and you make the dua لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وعلى كل شيء قدير لا إله إلا الله وحده أنجز وعده ونصر عبده وهزم الأحزاب وحده. What if you say, I don't know these ad'iyah? No problem. Your group leader will know them. You'll repeat it after them. What if I get lost from my group leader? It is enough that you stand on top of Safa and you remember Allah in some way, and then you go down towards Marwa. And then at Marwa you stand and you remember Allah in some way, and you go back to Safa, ila akhiri. And when you stand on each one, you try to face the Qibla. You try to face the Qibla. The floor will have tiles that indicate the direction of the Qibla. You try to face the Qibla and you make dua on each one. Do you have to stand long enough to do like dua khatm al-Quran fi Ramadan? No. You may even just be walking the whole time. That's not a problem. You make dua, you start on Safa, you go to Marwa, that's 1. From Marwa to Safa, that's 2. From Safa to Marwa, that's 3. Ila akhirihi. So not a full one, but rather 1 to 1 is a completion of that, inshaAllah ta'ala. طيب, is this clear? Now, you'll fit, yes.
I don't know, you said we're reading from after you do there's a console in the low instead of the law on the big. On the other video, you're saying that the whole time.
Correct. But I mean, you don't.
And then you see the Kaaba.
Yes.
I want to make sure. Put our hands up, we'll come down the other way.
You don't have to necessarily put your hand. The idea is that the talbiyah, the labbaik Allahumma labbaik, which you'll be saying with your group anyway, you continue the point that it ends from the moment you make ihram, which is when you're like on the train or whenever the group leader tells you we're going to make niyat al-hajj or niyat al-umrah, that whenever that happens, that is when talbiyah begins, that whole time, from that point of time until you see the Kaaba. That whole time is a time of talbiyah. You don't have to be doing it the entirety of that time, but typically with acts of worship like that, when you start strong and you try to end strong. So as you're approaching, like you left your hotel room, you met with the group, you guys are marching towards the haram to start your umrah, that this is a good time to continue to do the talbiyah, because as soon as you reach the Kaaba and you're about to start tawaf, whenever that is when the talbiyah ends. And for that act in specific. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Your niyyah is not going to happen until you're leaving Medina. I think we talked about this earlier, and I'll catch you up, inshallah. We can sit down, but your niyyah is after your time in Medina. At the end of your time in Medina, your visit to Medina is separate from your Hajj. When you're finished from your visit to Medina, there's going to be a point of time when you are getting ready to head to Mecca. When you're getting ready to head to Mecca, you will wear your ihram, the clothing, the garments as we described. And then there's going to be a point of time when your group leader tells you, we're going to enter the state of ihram. At that point of time, that is when the niyyah happens. When the niyyah happens, the intention, that is when you actually enter the state of ihram, right? And even now, like you're doing tamattu', I believe, right? Which is the Hajj that has a umrah that is a part of it, but separate from it as well. So you are now making the intention of a umrah that will then become a Hajj, right? So you've entered the state of ihram, and then now with what we just completed, the sa'i, you actually are going to cut your hair and you will completely leave the state of ihram. You will completely leave the state of ihram. By the completion of the sa'i that we were just talking about, you will leave the state of ihram, and then you'll have like maybe a day or so, right? Is it like that? Like a day or 2 days, and then you will inshallah ta'ala begin the Hajj process, right? Very similar to what we're saying. Just that your group leader will indicate whether you're still doing tamattu or whether you're doing qiran, and that will only distinguish how long you're staying in the state of ihram for. If your umrah is just spilling over into Hajj, right, where they're built into each other, or if you're doing a umrah then breaking off and then starting the Hajj, which I think both are possible if you're doing Mecca first. Allahu a'lam. No, no worries. Yeah, you can just do it from your house. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. There's no need to do it just before. It's just that it is done prior, inshallah. No. Yes. You will be with your group the entirety of your Hajj, inshallah. Yeah. And every single thing that you're hearing me say, you will hear them say. And inshallah ta'ala, you will be like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of the Hujjaj. You'll see, like, yes, there will be challenges, there will be difficulty, and we ask Allah ta'ala to make it easy for you. But every step of the way, you will have either members from your group with you, or leaders with you, or service providers with you, that will indicate to you the next thing that a person should be doing, inshallah ta'ala. But we're familiarizing ourselves. The earlier we familiarize ourselves, the easier it becomes, inshallah ta'ala. Tayyib? Any other questions surrounding what we've covered so far? We finished the Umrah. Now it's time for Hajj, which is perfect. Exactly when we're supposed to finish. Allah al-Musta'an. Now there is what is called Yawm al-Tarwiyah, right? Which is the day of the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah. And the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah is a day that the Hujjaj go to Mina, right? And this is your first night in Mina. And some groups do not go to Mina on the 8th day, the 8th night rather. Remember, in our calendar, the night comes before the day. So if you can go to Mina on this day, even if you go shortly or briefly, you should go. It's good to go. It's like, remember, how many times in your life are you going to do Hajj? Inshallah, many. But how many of them will be the Hajj of your life? The first one. This is not a time like you'll see some group leaders are like very lenient. Yeah, it's because it's their 17th Hajj, right? Let them be as lenient as they want. They're mostly there to facilitate the Hajj of others, not to do their own Hajj. So don't see them as role models. I always tell that to my Hajj groups. I'm not a role model for you. This is your first Hajj. This is not my first Hajj. So make sure you do we should be role models, but sometimes it makes it easier logistically not to be doing the maximum amount. But this is your first Hajj and you're physically able. Try to do all of the things that are good to do. So Yawm al-Tarwiyah, you go to Mina, which is the 8th night of Dhul Hijjah, and you stay there till the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. Typically, you'll stay there on the 8th, and then you'll wake up at Fajr, and then you'll take the train to Arafah, because Arafah is the 9th. And then you'll get to Fajr, you'll probably get to the camp at like, this is my calculation based off of my experience. All of this is subject to change, okay? You'll get to the camp probably around 8 a.m., 9 a.m., right? You think about just the logic of that. You left at Fajr, post Fajr, and you're getting there at 8 or 9. Like, why does it take that long to go a very short distance? Because it's Hajj. And what are we doing that entire time? Dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You get to Arafah, what do you do immediately? You nap. The best thing that you can do is you nap. Why? Because you may feel like you want to be awake, but don't be awake, because Arafah actually begins, like the sacred time of Arafah begins at what? Begins at Dhuhr. So a nap then protects you from a lot of the people who end up taking a nap in the sacred time that's meant to be a time of dua. Because they're going to serve you this glorious meal, and it's going to be a perfect time for a post-meal nap. But the one who took a nap is wise enough that when the mealtime comes, they only eat a little bit. They don't eat too much because they don't want to have stomach issues and they don't want to have sleep issues, right? And so they eat light. They eat enough to satisfy themselves, and then so you get to Arafah, and of course the Prophet sallallahu wasallam alayhi, he says al Hajj Arafah, that Hajj is Arafah. That this is the essence of all of Hajj is Arafah, right? And so you go to Arafah, you rest as much as you can between whatever time you get there till inshallah ta'ala dhuhr. You get up for dhuhr inshallah ta'ala, you make the salawat, there will be talks, there will be collective dua. But the best thing to do in this time is to be munkasir bayna yadayillah, to be broken with Allah, to cry to Allah, to vent to Allah, to beg of Allah. You'll see yourself dusty, tired, exhausted, drained, feet swollen, smelling yucky. Embrace it. This is who I am with you, O Allah. يَمُدُّ يَدَيْهِ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ يَا رَبِّ يَا رَبِّ. Raising your hands to Allah, O Allah, O my Lord, O my Lord. This is your time to put aside your degrees, your wealth, your affluence, your social status, all of these things, and say, what I am all the time is a abd of Allah, and I travel thousands of miles and I pay thousands of dollars to renew that I am a abd of Allah before anything else. That is what Arafah is all about. Be broken with Allah, be poor with Allah, cry to Allah, beg of Allah. And that's why we said we need to begin practicing that from now. From now we begin practicing that, inshallah ta'ala. Otherwise, you'll be in the best of places and you won't feel the best of things, right? فعلى كل حال, you do this and you stay in that state until قبيل المغرب, right? You'll pray with the jama'ah, there'll be talks, all these different things, and there will be dua collectively and separately, and you take full advantage of that. No distractions. Maybe the AC doesn't work in the tent, no problem. Maybe you're sweating in places you didn't even know you could sweat, no problem. You are in Arafah. Take advantage of that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes down to the lowest heaven on that day, and He asks the angels a question that He knows the answer to. Why are my servants here? What do they want from me? And the angels respond, they say, oh Allah, all they want is for you to be pleased with them and to forgive them. And Allah says, I am pleased with them and I forgive them. Right? And we ask Allah to make us from those people. So just focus on that. Nah. Yes.
It seems like there's two groups, like Mosque Foundation and the area.
Yeah. Yes. Where are you in?
Not the good one.
Not the good one. Mu'aysim. Mu'aysim, you're in Mu'aysim. Yeah. No, it's not the good one. It's the far one. Yeah, but it's everything is still going to be. It's the far. I've done the far one before, but likely now the new thing is those that are far. They mostly go to the jamarat. We're not at that part, by the way, yet. The jamarat, like the pelting the stones. Right now, we talked about the eighth day, doctor. That you go and you just spend the night. Then you go with your group on the train to Arafah. You go to Arafah. This is irrelevant to whether you are in the one that's close to the Jamarat or the one, it doesn't matter in the situation because you're going to Arafah. You get to Arafah, you're actually, I believe, in the same Arafah, like the same area of Arafah as the others. In fact, there's only one American place in Arafah to my knowledge. Wallahu a'lam. It's not a long train at all. It's like none of the trains are particularly long routes, inshallah. Something like that, yeah, inshallah. So the eighth day you're spending the night, inshallah, in Mina, right? You get there by bus. Then you stay the night there. Then the next day you take a train to Arafah. You'll get there like around Fajrish time or around 8 or 9 a.m., something like that, just general times. And we're saying to rest until Dhuhr. You wake up at Dhuhr, you worship Allah till Qubayl al-Maghrib, like close to Maghrib prayer, okay? Then the group leaders will begin to rally you up to take the train to Muzdalifah, okay? You're taking the train to Muzdalifah now. Now it's around Maghrib time. You're not going to pray Maghrib in Arafah. You're going to get on the train just around Maghrib time so that you can get to Muzdalifah. You get to Muzdalifah around Isha time. It's okay. You're going to pray Maghrib and Isha at Muzdalifah. Are you guys with me? Is this clear? So 8th day, do we need to recap? recap. Eighth day, you're spending the night in Mina. Eighth day, you're staying in the Mecca hotels, right? You're staying in the Mecca hotels for a few days. You're now gonna take a train or you're gonna take a bus to Mina. You spend the night in Mina. This is called Yawm al-Tarwiyah. This is the eighth day of Dhul Hijjah. You stay there till Fajr of Yawm Arafah. On Yawm Arafah, you wake up, you pray Fajr, and then you take a bus to Arafah, or you take the train rather to Arafah. Okay? You get to Arafah, you sleep until Dhuhr is my recommendation. At Dhuhr, you make dua and you do ibadah until Qubayl al-Maghrib, close to Maghrib time. At Arafah, you're at Arafah. And then at Arafah, inshallah ta'ala, around Maghrib time, you will take the train to a place called Muzdalifah. Muzdalifah is where you pray Maghrib and Isha, Jam'an, inshallah ta'ala, you'll pray it together. And then you stay there. You spend the night there. Some people spend half the night there. Some people spend the full night there. That is a decision that you will make, that the group leader will make and inform you of. Do you have to stay the full night? It's recommended that you stay the full night. Are you sinful if you don't stay the full night? You're not sinful if you don't stay the full night. And particularly for elders or people with physical limitations, they especially don't need to stay the full night. Okay? Then you go and you make your way let's assume that you will stay till Fajr. Right? It's a good assumption, inshallah. نحسن الظن فيكم. That you'll stay till Fajr in Muzdalifah. That night is the best sleep of the entire year because you're sleeping on bare ground. And that's why some of the mashayikh, they recommend taking like a sleeping bag with you or like a yoga mat, not so you can sit there doing yoga in the middle of Hajj, but so you can lay on it because the floor is kind of rough. ولكن على كل حال, you'll spend the night and stay till Fajr if you can. And if your group is not going to stay till Fajr, just do what your group is doing, right? And inshallah ta'ala tu'jar ala niyatik. What do we have the intention for? To stay for a part of the night or the full night? The full night, inshallah ta'ala. Buy one, get one free, inshallah. فالمهم, you stay till Fajr, inshallah ta'ala. And then where do you go? You go immediately to Mina, but where do you specifically go in Mina? You go for the Jamarat. You go for the Jamarat. And this, you pray Fajr in Muzdalifah. The sunnah is that you pray Fajr in Muzdalifah. Yeah. Now, and this is, of course, if an individual is not spending the whole night, then they go back to Mina. They go back to their tents in Mina, and then they wait for the Fajr to come, and then they do the pelting of the stones, Jamrat al-Aqaba, right? And on the first day, you pelt on the big one, al-Kubra, and not on the other ones. And again, like, these are details. You might be like, he's saying 7, and then the first day it's 7, and then every day after that it's 21. Where am I going to get these stones from? Like, do they sell them online? Don't worry about it. Wallahi, everything will be everything. We are just here to walk you through it, to answer your questions, to establish a connection, so that when you're there, inshallah ta'ala, you can have a familiarity enough to get you by, inshallah ta'ala. But on the first day, now after Yawm Arafah is Yawm what? Yawm al-Nahr, which is the day of Eid. The day of Eid. So you spent the night in Muzdalifah. The next day at Fajr, you make your way to if you didn't already, at Fajr now begins the window of time to throw the stones, right? On Jamrat al-Aqaba, and you're throwing it at al-Kubra, like the main one or the big one, and you're throwing 7 stones. And this is what you're doing on Eid. What about the sacrificing of the animal? That we can assume that by your purchase of the Hajj package, that by the time that it is the Fajr of Yawm al-Nahr, that the Nahr is made for you, that the sacrifice is made for you. When you have completed the animal sacrifice, which it is done by that Fajr time, or like some scholars say, like most of them are actually done closer to like later after Fajr, like maybe like 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. You can play it safe anyway, because you're not going to go throw the stones until after Fajr anyway. And maybe your group will not throw the stones until later on, like between Fajr and Dhuhr, right? But regardless, you'll throw the stones, and at this point of time, you will have completed enough where you can shave your head. You can shave your head. Once you shave your head at this point of time, you have now, inshallah ta'ala, completed enough of the Hajj where you can exit the physical state of ihram while remaining in the spiritual state of ihram. And what you have remaining is, of course, the Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, the days, the 3 days that you will be in Mina, which is the 11th and the 12th and the 13th, and these are the days that every day you go and you throw the stones, 7 on each pillar, and there are 3 pillars, and you throw and you say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and you throw the stones, 7 on each pillar. The rest of the day, Ayyamu Mina, Ayyam Akil wa Shurb wa Dhikr, like these are days of remembrance, eating, drinking, communicating, building community, connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a type of i'tikaf in a sense. It's a type of seclusion for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And historically, this is a time when a lot of the ummah met one another and engaged with one another and networked with one another and discussed the matters of the ummah together and bettered their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala together. So we try to utilize it for that. This is, of course, was a lot easier when the camps of Mina were not divided by nationalities. Now, like you're with your people, they're with their people. There's pros and cons to that. But we want to make sure that we are honoring all of Hujjaj Baytullah al-Haram, right? Everyone that we come across, people that are in line with you. Never forget, everyone, this is not going to Disney, akramakumullah. You are there on a pilgrimage with everyone there who's going on a pilgrimage. I remember I met a brother, I forgot the country he's from. He said that I am going on this Hajj, and he was elderly, that my father spent his entire life saving up for Hajj, and then he only saved up enough to save up half of the amount, and then I spent my entire life saving up for Hajj, and the combination of my efforts and his efforts are how I'm able to do Hajj. And this was like common, like he was mentioning it like in passing, like explaining to me like how lost we are, you know. But and so these are the type of people that you're pushing and shoving. These are the type of people that you're being disrespectful to. These are the type of people that you think you're better than them. Iyadhan billah, afanallahu wa iyyakum. I want to be very humble because we don't know who the awliya of Allah are. We don't know whose maqam is what with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Want to be gentle with everyone around us, right? La rafatha wa la fusuqa wa la jidala fil hajj. That this is not a time of fighting or arguing or don't go to Hajj to fix the ummah. Don't go to Hajj. Don't risk your Hajj. Like one of our mashayikh used to say, people come to Hajj to fix Hajj instead of coming to Hajj to fix themselves, right? Like you're not going to change Saudi Arabia. You're not going to change the ministry of Hajj. You're not going to change any of these things. You didn't go to Hajj to change anything except what? Except yourself. So embrace that. And things will irritate you, things will bother you. لا بأس إن شاء الله نتحمل. We'll be patient for that time. على كل حال, you will be in the camps of Mina for these 3 days, and you will remain in a state of ihram that is general without being in the physical state of ihram. And what it predominantly prevents you from engaging in is things that are affiliated with your spouse, right? So you still can get married, even in the days of Mina, and you cannot have intimacy or that which leads to intimacy with your spouse during those days. And within those days, you do the tawaf of Hajj and the sa'i of Hajj in the same way that we did them for the Umrah. And when you complete all of those, then your group may stay for 12 days or the 13 days. But within that time, you do the tawaf of Hajj with the group and the sa'i of Hajj, and usually you do them together. And when you complete those, your group may stay for till the 12th day, and your group may stay till the 13th day. And the vast majority of groups today stay for the 12th day only, and they don't do the 13th day. And there's no sinfulness in that. Then, inshallah ta'ala, the Hajj becomes completed. The days of Mina are times that people that are typically busy don't know what to do with themselves, and so they start perhaps complaining or just engaging in talk that is unacceptable for a Hajji to be engaging in. And these are days of ibadah. These are days of worship. These are days to be engaging in self-rectification and to not lose sight of that. And they go by very quickly, honestly. They go by very quickly. especially since you come back on the 10th. You're doing the jamarat on the 10th. Likely on the 11th, you will do the tawaf and the sa'i of Hajj anyway. Then you come back, you spend that night. The next morning is the 12th. By the Fajr, you're starting to prepare that by the 12th at Dhuhr, you're leaving, right? Or something like that. Yani, I'm just summarizing, yani, speaking openly. That time flies by very quickly. So you want to make sure that you are taking advantage of it fully, inshallah ta'ala. And with that, your Hajj is completed bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So I'll open it up for questions, inshallah ta'ala, for the next 7 minutes or so, inshallah. Yes.
It's a really good summary, Hussein.
Jazakumullah khair.
It seems to me that you only sleep outside of
Yes, and if you are you shifting or non-shifting?
I'm 20.
Are you in the group that continues to have a hotel through the days of Mina?
I believe
You have hotel the entire. Oh, okay. So, maybe they'll okay. So it's just the ability to access it. Okay, Jazakallah. Thank you for the clarification. So what I would say is that even those days of Mina, you go to Mina and you stay there for a portion of the nights. So especially those that want to be able to go back to their room, they'll be able to go back to their room, because what you're legislated to do shar'an is that you need to be there for a portion of the night, ila muntasaf al-layl, until the halfway of the night. So you may go to Mina and spend the day there and a portion of the night there, and then you go back to the hotel. And your group leader will inform you of when you're leaving to Mina and when you're coming back from Mina, inshallah.
it's 3 nights.
It is 3 nights, yes. Technically, I mean, it depends. It depends on the total number, like how long you're staying in Mina, but it's either 3 or 4. Also, depending on whether you're doing Yawm al-Tarwiyah or not, like the 8th day before Arafah. Then you could even go there for a portion of the night and then go back, right?
It seems like you do summer when you get there.
Yes.
And then after you finish off, and then after you finish the 3rd day of Jamarat, but then you do the tawaf
And the sa'i. During yes, one is for the Umrah and one is for the Hajj. During your days in Mina, like after Arafah and everything, the group will inform you of when it is time for you to go and to do the tawaf and sa'i of Hajj. And that will be something that you go collectively as a group to do as well, inshallah.
everybody's doing their Hajj.
Tamattu', that is correct, yes. Sahih. Yes. It's a matter of khilaf amongst the scholars if tawaf al-wada' is something that is an obligation or whether it is something that's highly recommended. And the general rule of thumb is when you're going to Hajj, you try to do these things. And I would encourage you to do them, yani, inshallah ta'ala.
Do you ever wear regular clothes?
During tawaf?
When do we wear regular clothes? Like what?
For 14 days, you will not be wearing regular. No, I'm just joking. No. So yes, the windows of time that you're not wearing regular clothes is actually quite brief, relatively speaking, depending on who you ask. But during the Umrah, you're wearing ihram. During the Umrah, you're wearing ihram, obviously. Then you leave the wearing of ihram, and then you put on your ihram again before Arafah, right? Before like going to Arafah, and then and that is when you're wearing it for the Hajj, and then you stay in the ihram at that point of time until you do enough of the arkan of Hajj to free you out of ihram, which means that you've done Arafah and you've done the sacrifice of the animal, which naturally happens on the day of Eid, and you've done the throwing of the stones. The tawaf, like like 3 out of the 4 need to be done. So as long as you have 3 out of the 4, then you're good, inshallah.
So it seems to me like I got the Medina part, I come to Mecca and I do
I
do
the Umrah.
I do the Umrah and then I go to my hotel room and I change my regular clothes.
Yes. You cut your, of course, part of the Umrah is that the Umrah is completed with the cutting of the hair, right? Which is like, what is Umrah? Niyya, tawaf, sa'i, haircut. These four things.
We stay 3 days, then we go to.
Then you begin the Hajj.
We stay 2-3 days.
You stay about like 2 days, I think. Yeah, 3 days, depending on your package. Yes. Inshallah.
Are you going to be on Hajj?
I wish. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يتقبلها منكم يا رب. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from you. It would have been my honor, wallahi, to go with all of you, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to go to Hajj and Umrah together. It's a very, very, very beautiful and special, and it will be facilitated by Allah. I promise you, I'm not telling that to you generically. I've been to Umrah with Muhsin families that have a hard time going on basic, yani just coming here is mission impossible for them. And they'll tell you that it was easier for them to travel the world for Hajj than it is for them to go shopping at a local store. Allah yuyassir al-umur. This is the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His ibad, for His servants. And of course, if you need anything, feel free to contact any of the mashayikh here, inshallah ta'ala, and they can, inshallah ta'ala, be of help. Yes. So you're gonna have a carry-on, and like the larger luggage, always have the medicine in the carry-on. And if it's like a daily use medicine, just make sure that you're keeping an eye on it, and anything that's moving away from you, don't put the medicine in that. This is important. Your medicine should always be with you. So there will be a point of time, there will be multiple points of time when you're separated from your major big luggage bag, which is not a problem. The medicine should not be in that. It should be in your carry-on or in your like fanny pack or like your handheld bag. You can get it there. You can get it from here. Either way is not an issue, inshallah. They're available in both, inshallah. Yeah. Yeah, I would recommend that as well, which is to basically do a very short like buzz cut, if you will, for the Umrah. So you have some hair left, so that when the Hajj is completed, they do the blade. If you have a skin condition that doesn't allow you to use the blade, or you just have like a skin condition called hair loss, then what you could do is, and you don't want to do the complete shaving, then what you could do is you could instead do like a 1 or a 2 for the Umrah. But just the point is to have hair left for when you're done with Hajj. You do not, but it's 3 times the reward of getting a haircut. But of course, it is completely permissible that a person, for both the Umrah and the Hajj, just cut their hair. Inshallah. Yes, my sisters. Go ahead, sisters. So whether for women or men, if you have like you're an immunocompromised individual, or you have reason, or you live with immunocompromised people, and you fear sickness and these things, and you have genuine concern in that regard, then a person can wear a mask, and you would pay the compensation for it without carrying the sin of it, because you're wearing it for a medical need under the basis that there is a legitimate medical need, right? Which there may be. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ya'afi al-jami'. And so you do that, and you would not have the sin for it, but you would still pay it as a compensation for that. Inshallah. No. Yeah. Certainly. Yeah, so I would just say generally diversify. التنوع في العبادة والطاعة. And to pivot as necessary. So sometimes dhikr,